and he scored the first goal of the season, which is kind of cool. Another picture from there. And then this is going to be my next soccer guest on the show. He's senior defensive back Eric Davis. So that should be fun.
Cool.
I'm starting to really enjoy soccer. I'm starting to understand and my positioning for pictures and stuff. So it's starting to be kind of exciting. Last thing about sports. I'm doing a senior profile interview for every athlete at LHS that's a senior this year. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to release them in like 5 interview chunks, but they're going to be separate. So people won't have to dig around looking for their grandkid or their kid or whatever. It'll just be a quick, 6 to 10 minute interview. Bam, bam, bam. And I think I added it up yesterday, and there's over 40 of them total.
Huge commitment on your part.
I have 1, 2, 3. I have 6 today.
Wow.
Yeah. 20 seniors on the football team alone.
Wow.
Yeah. It's going to be fun though.
That's crazy.
At least then I'll know all their names.
Yeah. So it looks like, I had a little bit of a conversation with Goodman. It looks like we are going to be carrying the home games and potentially the home Baker games. We're trying to work out that.
That would be good.
Yeah. So, and there's only one night where they're both playing at the same time. I guess I haven't looked. Maybe they're playing each other. Maybe that's
well, we do play each other.
Right. Yeah.
We play each other here. LeGrand and Baker play here this year.
Yeah, but so it's got to be somebody else. Is it because there's only one night where they're both playing at home?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
so we'll have to figure out that conflict. So it could be cool. William, who calls the games for the Shrine, he might be doing play-by-play for us. So we're kind of working that out. That could be very fun, kind of like how we used to do football with sponsors and the whole 9 yards. So
that'd be excellent.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look outside, and I loved it. It was so cool this morning. It was just beautiful. Let's see what Gabe has.
Heading into the day on Thursday, low 90s will be the story for much of us, an exception for Meacham to Baker, cooler into the mid to the upper 80s, while Pendleton in Ontario will stay more mild into the mid to the upper 90s. I'm expecting a little bit more clouds out towards the south compared to the north, which could produce a slight chance for maybe just a few rumbles of thunder out that way with maybe just a few showers. Otherwise, the remainder of our region will stay completely dry. Heading into the day on Thursday for LeGrand, it looks like this will start out into the mid-60s at the 8 o'clock hour. Abundantly clear, beginning with a light westerly wind flow. During the day, we see that change to the northwest, picking up to about 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts in spots as we just see a few clouds. But overall, sunshine will be the story, rising those temperatures to the lower 90s by the 4 o'clock hour. Those winds become light and change to the north by the evening. Heading into my short-term forecast for the Grand Ronde Valley, tracking a high of 91 for Thursday, drop into the mid to the upper 50s overnight, almost a carbon copy on Friday before we see a major cool down briefly for the weekend.
I don't know what. Yeah, so it's in the lower 90s today, but I swear he's talking faster than what he ever has before. Maybe
he's getting more comfortable.
I think he is.
Weathermen talk fast.
I know they do, but he it's like, when did he breathe? He's got that ability. Not everybody has that ability to just talk. And
no, on Tuesday, I was talking about the mostly, cloudy, partly sunny. Right. I hope I didn't offend him because I was just poking,
yeah, right.
I've poked fun at it before, but he sent this, and it's like Gabe's weather lingo, and it breaks it all the way down like by percentages. It was 0 to 10%. It's called cloud coverage.
Okay.
Mostly sunny, sunny is 0 to 10%. Mostly sunny is 10 to 30% cloud coverage. Partly cloudy is 30 to 50. Partly sunny, 50 to 70. Mostly cloudy, 70 to 90. And cloudy is 90 to 100.
Okay.
I was just, I was, like poking fun in like layman terms. Like if you tell me it's mostly sunny and then you tell me it's partly cloudy.
Yeah.
That's to people like me that aren't weathermen, that's the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and there's not, looking at that chart, there's not much of a definition between them.
No, it's just a little, no wiggle room at all.
Yeah.
None. Zero.
Well, that's funny. So, well, hey, today it's a pleasure to have Jeremy Davis, the CEO and president from Grand Ron Hospital, with us. He's going to be talking to us about this big build out that's happening up at the hospital, and he'll be with us right after this.
One of the exciting things about being here at Grand Hospital and Clinics is really the opportunity to be a part of something special. Shortly after I accepted the position to replace Jim Mattis, a longtime CEO here, we had a series of transition calls. And one of the first calls that he and I had, he let me know that one of the things I needed to work on was developing a plan to build some new operating rooms. And I joked that nobody brought this up when I interviewed.
So our original ORs were built in the 70s, and they were built to meet code at that point. Currently our ORs do not meet current code. And so that was our big motivation to go here.
We are on our second waiver, and that waiver is set to expire in 2028. But we've also seen a lot of growth. Since 2018, we have seen about 29% growth in surgeries through the end of 2021.
We are growing. I mean, we are expanding services. We're doing it cautiously. We don't want to grow too fast, but we also want to continue to provide services for the community that they need.
So I think one of the exciting things about this new facility expansion project is really the focus on the patient. These new ORs are going to be fully integrated. Our pre-op, our intra-op, our post-op areas will all be in the same physical location.
And I think that efficient patient flow is going to be nice for the patients. It's going to be less going through hallways and things like that we all know we have to right now.
When we bring patients back, they're in a gown, they're laying on a bed. Women don't have their makeup on, they're in a blue bonnet, not looking their best. And just to see either strangers or other members of the public that they know can be uncomfortable for them.
Our ORs right now are due for an upgrade. What's really exciting is that we didn't just take the things that would get us up to the level that we have to be at in order to, be able to continue doing what we want to do. We actually have looked ahead.
So the new suites will be everywhere from just under 700 square feet down to 400 square feet for the smallest, which is our largest OR now.
There's actually bigger space to move around, which it can get pretty cramped right now. We obviously do great. I think we all do great surgery here, and we all do everything we need to do, and we have up to date for everything that we have, but it will be nice to be able to move around a little bit freer.
We won't necessarily have to play Tetris while we're moving equipment around. We'll actually have some space to be able to work a little bit more comfortably.
And then there have been a few situations, particularly with trauma, where you'll end up with multiple surgical specialties operating on a patient at once. And I had a case where there was a vascular injury and a broken leg, so general surgery is working on the vessels and ortho is trying to get the leg stabilized and straightened out. And it's just tough to get all those services in a 400 square foot operating room.
But there's a light that actually makes it so it kind of pretends your head's not in the way. So it's really cool, new technology, so we'll be getting that as well.
Credit to Jeremy in administration, he actually involved the providers fairly early on with what are our needs. There were a handful of us that made trips to Boise, Tri-Cities, and it seems like maybe Pendleton was another one, where we looked at their ORs and had the opportunity to see what their workflow was, but also ask questions like, what do you not like about it?
So we have nitpicked where everything from where the anesthesia person's going to go to where the plugins are for the docs.
The hospital has been very good at getting physician input and saying, hey, if we're going to do this, rather than, go to some expert that's never been in an operating room other than to look at it and measure things up, let's talk to the people that have their boots on the ground and let's see what they think.
When I think about a lot of hospitals that are struggling across this country, and we've just enjoyed great community support, We really think it is a strategic imperative that we make this investment now that will help us with recruitment and retention of key surgeons and hopefully allow us to recruit some additional surgeons.
When you have modern ORs, you're much more likely to get surgeons to come here.
You know, from a surgeon standpoint, in a lot of the training, you're dealing with the newest technology and with the newest techniques and advancements in surgery. So in training, you are training and working and learning on all of this new equipment, and then to go to a rural area that says, yeah, all that new fancy equipment that you have, yeah, we don't have any of that. Definitely from a surgeon standpoint is a turnoff. If you don't have the operating room facilities and kind of the newer stuff that I've learned on, maybe I'm gonna look elsewhere that could offer that, because that's gonna allow me to use my skills that I worked so hard to develop in training.
Most of us are not here because we want to be publishing papers and being the expert in a given field. We're here because we want to do our job and raise a family.
I love working in the operating room. I've always wanted to. I wanted to stay rural and serve my community that I grew up in.
You know, we're very lucky in our community to have the services we have and not have to travel to see a cardiologist or a neurologist.
Also, you have a hospital whose bottom line is, let's take care of the community that takes care of us, not let's see how many pennies we can squeeze out of these people to make the bottom line better for us.
People nowadays should expect to have a smooth process for something as serious as having surgery.
You know, we talk often about our tagline, big city medicine, hometown touch. I really think people, when they walk into this new facility, are going to think they're in a big city. But where we're going to differentiate is that hometown touch. As I mentioned earlier, we really are taking care of our neighbors here.
I had a fairly big operation on a knee, and I chose to have it done here because we have good surgeons here, we have a low infection rate here. I saw no reason to get in my car and drive to Boise or any place else.
Ultimately, it's looking ahead to the future to say, well, what is this community going to need in 30 years or 15 years? And can we meet those needs? And does it allow us to hire more surgical specialists that potentially we don't need right now, but we may?
We've also hit that point where we need to look at the cost of, okay, how much does it cost to keep the old up and running versus how much does it cost to build something new? And eventually you hit a point where you say, okay, let's put the costs into the new stuff and build something new that's going to last for another 50 or 60 years.
You know, I'm often asked, why invest in a $70 million project when there's a lot of uncertainty in this world? This is about taking care of this community now and into the future. There are lives that will be saved because of this facility. Nobody plans to have an emergency surgery. Having access to these state-of-the-art services is more important than ever. These ORs will save lives, and the donations that folks make might end up benefiting their loved one or themselves because these ORs are in place, and we've been able to recruit and attract some of the best surgeons in rural America.
All right. Hey, thank you guys for watching that. And we're with Jeremy Davis, President and CEO of Grand Ronde Hospital. Glad you're here, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. How's it going this morning?
It's good. You know, I was just reminiscing. I think it was about 3 years ago that I was in your studio because I was new here.
Right. You were here. It was just a conversation between the two of us, and we've talked a ton since then.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, no. So well, welcome back, and
thank you.
I'm glad you're here, and we appreciate Marty and the Grand Ronde Hospital being a part of our AM live program, and that brings you here this morning.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah. So that video, which was awesome, of course, because we produced it, but yeah, that was a huge project for us to take on, in the sense of trying to get our mind around why this was happening and so on and so forth. And then compacting, I think the first draft that I gave Patrick was 19 minutes long, just because there's a lot of content, and getting and getting it summarized, you know. So, but in that you talk about how that when you very first started, you knew that you guys were going to have to deal with this. And so I don't know. Let's start with, you know, of those things, what's the most important? What's the other than the compliance factor, which you guys are cornered and you've got to do something. I don't know. Talk about some of the benefits that people are going to experience.
Well, first I'll just say I just love the video and the work that you did, and really thankful for the staff that took time to be a part of it. I think it really shows an authenticity and a genuine commitment to serve this community. I really think that is the driving force. You know, we are an independent rural community hospital, and we have to solve our own problems here. We don't have a health system that's going to bail us out, and we've enjoyed great community support for over a century. And so really for us, we have seen kind of this perfect storm. I don't know if it's partly cloudy or partly sunny, but you know, a perfect storm in terms of we have seen great growth in terms of our medical staff. In the last 3.5 years, we've been able to sign about 50 providers to join our team here in Union County. We were already seeing growth in surgical volumes, and then that just has continued to happen over the last several years. Even in spite of the pandemic, we've continued to see a growth in surgery. And, you know, really for us, it's as I kind of mentioned in the video, you know, why would you invest in a time when there's so much uncertainty right now? And the reality is it's not that we have to, we need to.
Right.
If we're going to meet the needs of this community now and into the future, I don't know if there's ever a good time to do a $70 million expansion. And certainly being a hospital that's on a hill, there's going to be complexities with building on a hill and having a campus that's landlocked. But really, I think it's in support of our medical staff, physician and surgeon retention and recruitment. And really, at the end of the day, it's about the patient and giving them the best surgical experience possible, so they stay local for their care.
So I'm going to ask the questions, and you all at home, you know, if you have a question, please put that in the Facebook comments and we'll get that to Jeremy. But I'm going to ask the questions that it's like, do we really need to spend $70 million? Can't we upgrade the surgical suites for less than that? And why did we choose to do
so?
more?
There's really two factors. One is our current physical location of our ORs. There is not enough ceiling height to address the code issues.
Okay.
And so that's number one. We just don't have the ceiling height for the duct work and all the other extracurriculars that need to go into that. We just can't do it. The other thing is where our ORs are currently located, we have adjacent service lines. We have radiology and we have others that are around the ORs. So we need more ORs. Right now, we really only have 3 general use ORs. And according to our data and the consultants that we've engaged, we need 5. And so we kind of are just in a pickle where not only do we not have the ceiling heights needed to address the code issues, but we don't have the elbow space to expand. So we had to find another spot. And really, in terms of Grand Island Hospital, I joke with our staff, it seems like a hard hat is standard work attire there. Every time we do a construction project, we seem to outgrow it the moment that we move in. We just enjoy great community support, and we've got great surgeons, great providers, and a lot of folks are staying local. And I think, you know, if there's ever a silver lining to the pandemic, and I think there are some for folks, but we had a lot of folks in the community who I think gave us another chance. Mm-hmm. Maybe they were going to Tri-Cities, maybe they were going to Boise, and they were nervous because, you know, early on in 2020, those were COVID hotspots. We weren't having a lot of COVID here. And so a lot of patients were staying local for their care, knowing that we had recruited new surgeons, new providers, new physicians, and they found that, wow, this is great. It's personal, they're compassionate, and it's convenient. And so I think that has helped support some of our growth trajectory. And then lastly, I would say, you know, in Union County, we anticipate the Medicare population to grow. And as we know,
wait a minute, I take that personally.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And we know that the Medicare population are, as a whole, are higher utilizers of healthcare services. And so again, we don't want to be reactive.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be proactive. And, you know, certainly, so I started in November of 2018. And in 2019, we brought in a consultant and we looked at a master facility plan. We looked at other service lines that maybe need some additional space given their growth. Obviously, we didn't have a pandemic on our radar.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, then 2020 hit, and we kind of put a pause on this project because our waiver currently is not set to expire until 2028. So we have a little bit of time. But you know, with the pandemic, we kind of put the expansion project on hold, focused our attentions on our emergency operations plan, how we were going to, you know, address, you know, this pandemic and take care of the community and the medical needs there. And then once we got our operations plans in place, and luckily, you know, the COVID volumes weren't that significant early on, we were able to start getting focused back on this project because we knew, you know, again, 2028. When I started in 2018, that's 10 years away. It seems like, you know, that's down the road. We got time, but the reality is it's coming quick.
Right.
And we want to address some of the efficiencies and the operational challenges now,
mm-hmm.
and not kind of kick the can down the road.
So, and I'm going to have my knee surgery. I'm going to have my knee replaced, but the closest time that Olson had availability, I mean, it's scheduled for November 14th.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And part of that is OR space,
Yep.
right? I mean, so then only having 3 ORs
Yep.
has pushed some of that stuff down the road.
Yeah, we've seen growth in ortho and ear, nose, and throat, GYN, general surgery.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of our surgical specialties are seeing growth. And so that's the challenge. I mean, people want to stay local for their care, which we love, but yet we don't have the space and the capacity to address it right away sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to get this, having more ORs allows some of those cases that maybe have to be booked out 4, 5, 6 weeks out. Now we can get them in 2 weeks and 3 weeks, because we recognize when you're in pain, nobody wants to hear, yeah, you need to wait until January to get in.
Right.
And so it's going to be multifactorial. You know, not only are we going to have to address the space issues, but we're also going to then need to recruit some additional OR staff. So we can really, again, meet that demand head on and really become, again, that hospital that folks have come to love and respect here in Eastern Oregon. I love what Dr. Hunsaker says. He was on the show with me and you several times as we were talking about COVID. When I first met him, when I got here, he said, you know, we fight above our weight class here at Grand Island Hospital, and he's spot on. We do more services in terms of complexity and volume than your typical rural hospital. And what that means is that the community doesn't have to travel for good quality care.
So I know that I've had a lot of conversations with you. I know that everything at some point comes back to the patient.
Yeah.
And so talk for a minute about how this new building impacts not only surgeries, but some of the other things that you're building in, the loading dock and the dietary, talk about that a little bit.
Well, in terms of the ORs, what's great is everything's going to be integrated. So right now, our pre-op area is in a different location of the hospital than the actual ORs. So you come into the hospital, you get ready for surgery, and then you're going to get wheeled through some hallways, public hallways, that get you to the ORs. And these new ORs, now everything's going to be in the same 4 walls. So the pre-op area, the actual ORs, and then the recovery area, all in the same physical location. So not only is this going to be better for the patient, but it's safer. Mm-hmm. We have more staff in one singular location now instead of spread out, who are going to be able to have eyes on every patient and make sure that we're meeting their needs, whether they're in pain, whether they're nauseated, or whether they're ready to go home. You know, we're just going to be more responsive there. The other thing that's really cool is right now our central sterile which is where we process all the instruments and disinfect and sanitize the equipment that the surgeons use, is in our basement. That is now going to be adjacent to in the same physical location as well. So efficiency-wise, the equipment and the supplies are going to be all right there. And so really, again, we're going to be able to be more efficient. The other thing that is in addition to these new ORs is right now we only have one special procedure room. And with the new ORs, we're going to have two. So right now we only have one room that we can do colonoscopies in, or endoscopies, or whatever. And having two, we're going to be able to do, we can set one patient up in one room, have the other patient in the other room getting their scope, and then the surgeon can then leave that room and then, you know, gown up and you know, wash their hands and get ready, and they can jump into the next room and do that case.
And that's a procedure that's done a lot.
And so oftentimes the surgeons are just sitting there waiting to do the case because we have to wait for the room to be turned over and then have the patient brought in because we only have one room.
And again, the patient backup.
Yep.
They're not getting in as quickly as what they maybe could.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we've really, I got to give a big kudos to our surgical team, many of our surgeons, because they've been involved in this process really from the beginning. From, you know, a seed of just kind of an idea and a vision. And then we went on several site visits to other hospitals who recently have built new ORs. So we can learn, what do you like about your ORs? What do you not like about your ORs? What did you want in your new space? Maybe it had to be cut because of XYZ reason. And they really worked with our architects, and I really feel like we've got a best of breed OR that's going to not only has, you know, the DNA and the thumbprints of our surgeons in terms of its design, but also the surgical staff, and then obviously bringing together, you know, healthcare specific architects, bringing some of the latest design and flow that, you know, the big city hospitals are doing right now. So, I mean, really the exciting part is these ORs, but at the same time, you know, there are other things we wanted to improve in terms of the hospital, you know, overall. So at the street level, we'll have a new loading dock.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we have trucks that have to go up the driveway, the same driveway that the ambulance has to come up, and then they back in, and they can't get too close to the loading dock, and then it blocks parking and so forth. And so having a loading dock right off of Sunset, it won't block traffic because there'll be kind of a, I don't know what you want to call it, but they can kind of veer off to the side of the road. Traffic can still kind of go back and forth, and they're going to have easy access to unload the material. And then right above the loading dock will be a new materials department. So this was identified in 2019 that we needed some additional space to store, you know, the products and just the material that we go through in a hospital. And then certainly I think with the pandemic, we've learned maybe there is a little bit of value of hoarding a little bit.
Like masks,
and gowns and gloves. And so this is going to give us a little bit more space to store some of those, you know, needed supplies. So we have a little bit more of a safety stock on hand, because we still see some supply shortages. Mm-hmm. And I know other businesses are facing this too, just given the effects of the pandemic. But really, again, exciting that we get to address some other very critical pieces of our total hospital operations that maybe, quote, aren't at the bedside,
Mm-hmm.
but yet getting the material in, having the material on hand is so critical. We can't function without it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to build out a couple floors where there's going to be some shelled space that is going to give us some flexibility as we're kind of going through what we're calling a master facility plan 2.0. Because with the ORs moving into the new space here in about 2 years, we're going to have some vacated space within the existing hospital. And again, when we had the consultant in 2019, there are other service lines that need some more space as well. So we're really, again, looking at it from a micro level, but also at a macro level, that the master facility needs over the next 5 to 10 years, we hopefully can address most of those. And one of the big ones is we're going to get a new dietary department. So brand new kitchen, new eating area. with that new building being built right up to Sunset and taking advantage of the hill slope. They're going to have some great views of the valley and of those kids playing at recess and so forth. And so really it's an investment in our staff so they have a better dining experience. And my hope is that when folks are eating in this new cafeteria, that they might forget that they're in a hospital.
All right. So talk about that for a minute, because certainly hospital staff everywhere they've had a heavy lift for the last couple of years. And you and I had talked about staff retention and how important that is, and just connect that to this cafeteria area, because I think it's just really significant.
Again, there's a lot of factors that go into workforce well-being, workforce vitality, workforce retention. And one of the things that's really critical, I think, is the actual physical environment. And certainly these new ORs are going to create a new, fresh environment, and we're going to have much more efficient processes that are going to hopefully make the work easier for our surgical staff. So that we hope will help with retention and recruitment. But, we have over 700 employees. We're the largest private employer. I think we represent maybe about 4% of the workforce here in Union County. And so as an executive team, we just kept thinking, what are some of the things we can do with some of the space that we're going to have that's going to give our staff that rejuvenation, that when they get a break, that it's really a break. And I don't know about you, but when I'm stressful and I'm worried, I like to eat. And so, and making sure that it's good quality food and making sure that the space, again, is conducive to healing and wellness. Really, that's kind of the vision that started. And as we started working with the architects, and we knew that we were going to have a little bit of square footage underneath the ORs, as we were kind of building up the facility, so those ORs are on the same level as the main floor. It just made a lot of sense. Like, if we're going to do something bold and something big, not to say that the ORs aren't big, now's the time,
right?
Because we're going to have the construction company here. The labor's already here, so we could probably do it a little more efficiently and a little cheaper if we do it now instead of trying to add a kitchen, 5 years down the road. And this is where I have to just thank the Board of Trustees, being locally governed. When we made that presentation to them, they were just fully on board. They thought this was a great idea. Our kitchen and our dietary area has really been in the same physical location, and kind of looks the same for the last 30 plus years. I tell a story that I was a little boy. My sister had dental surgery over here, because I grew up in Baker City, and I remember my mom taking me down to the cafeteria, and I had cream of broccoli soup. And my first week on the job here, I went down to the cafeteria, and at least this time I was tall enough to see beyond what was being offered, and it looked a lot the same.
Yeah.
And I know there'd been some updates, and there's new equipment, and they've done some new paint and so forth, but the overall space and some of the just the look and the feel hadn't changed a whole lot. And so it was always in my back of my mind, man, if there's ever an opportunity where we can address this and really give a gift back to our employees of a wonderful dining space, I would love to do it, and the timing worked out.
Cool. And I have my daughter and my wife both work for the hospital, and so I'm very connected to that. And I've watched you guys. Heisinger talked about playing Tetris in the OR, and bone doctors, that's not the correct term. Orthopedics. Yeah. They have a lot of equipment. That's the one thing I learned through all these interviews, but that example though of Tetris, I've seen the hospital do that with space.
Yes.
You guys are constantly, the hard hat is the thing, because you're constantly moving this here so you can expand that there and then move that is the game that you guys have had to do for a long time. So talk for a minute about surgeon recruitment and just physician recruitment in general. And you've shared some facts fairly regularly about the recruitment game.
Well, to talk about the Tetris just one brief second, the cool thing about these new ORs is right now our OR is about 400 square feet. We're going to have 3 of our new ORs will be about 625 square feet, and 2 of them will be about 725 square feet. So, and also one of the things we heard loud and clear from the staff and the surgeons was we need more storage space. And so those have all been incorporated into the design. And so, especially, I think Dr. Pearson said it best in the video, when we have a trauma, somebody comes in a motor vehicle accident, he might be working on a vessel, and then we've got orthopedics working on a leg. So you've got 2 surgeons, you got teams, you got equipment, and so it can get real tight. And so these rooms are going to give them a little bit of elbow space. But in terms of physician and provider recruitment, really, I'm too confident, but I think we have so much to offer here at Grand Run Hospital and in the broader, Union County and Eastern Oregon. It's a great place to live, a great place to raise a family. Being part of an independent hospital where the money is local and the decisions are local, and you really get to, everybody at Grand Run Hospital gets to play a part in our destiny, because we don't have anybody that's going to bail us out. And I think that it can be professionally rewarding for a lot of folks. It can be terrifying as well, because if we don't get it right, the consequences can be a little bit more dire. But again, I think, we've just, ever since we started in 1907, when 4 local physicians banded together and created the first hospital, I think they have set the foundation and then the trajectory for the culture and the type of care and the type of just camaraderie and teamwork that we want to have at Grand Run Hospital. And I think one of the successes that we've had is, and it kind of goes along to what Dr. Hunsaker said, we fight above our weight class. We are not a rural hospital that's just barely holding on and it has a very limited scope of services. I recognize that there's probably folks in the community who are still maybe frustrated that maybe we don't offer more, but there are a lot of hospitals that have very limited specialists in town. And so you're going to have to travel outside of the area for a lot of your services. Not to mention, we've got a great hospitalist team and specialty team to where we're able to keep patients admitted to the hospital more frequently than other hospitals. And I think in terms of recruitment, physicians and providers want to be part of something that's going to be special. And we're not really a medical desert here or a medical island. They're going to have colleagues. They're going to have somebody that they can collaborate with on a difficult case. Whereas in some rural areas, there might be 5 doctors. Yeah. And so if they're the backstop, and then if they can't fix it, then there's no one else to help.
So give me those statistics, the number of physicians that are available every year, that's really interesting.
So there was a study by a large recruitment firm in 2019 that really holds true today. They interviewed, I think it was 391 physicians who were in their last year of their residency and were looking to find their first job, start earning some money to pay off those student loans, I guess. And the survey said that of those 391 physicians interviewed, if I recall, it was 40% of them had over 100 job offers. So again, it's a very competitive landscape. So recruiting is just tough across the board. And then you add the rural factor on top of that. They asked these 391 physicians, what size of community are you targeting? And only 1% were targeting a community with a population of 10,000 to 25,000, which is kind of where we're at.
Right.
And so we really are kind of bucking the trend in terms of getting providers in Union County. And again, I think it's, we've got great small business. We've got a we've got a good little university here. We've got good school district. I believe we've got great healthcare here. And so we've got those good pillars and foundations that, make this an attractive place to not only practice, but to live.
Yeah.
But certainly, I think our history, our financial stability, the fact that we as an organization continue to reinvest in ourselves in terms of equipment, in terms of facilities and so forth, I think people see that we're not just stagnant and holding on. We're trying to grow and meet the demands and meet the needs of the community. And I think that's helped us with recruitment.
Cool. Good stuff. So let's pivot just for a minute. So I know you're a big college sports fan.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Who do you watch? Which teams do you like?
Well, I'm a graduate of The Ohio State University, and so I am a big Buckeye fan. But growing up, I did love University of Oregon, and then Boise State.
What era? What era? University of Oregon.
Well, I graduated in 1999, so I'm of the Kellen Clemens era, and
I've had
Joey
Kellen Clemens
Harrington
on my show lots of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He sells real estate in Walla Walla now.
So actually, I played against Kellen. So because I'm a graduate from Baker High, so I was a senior, and I think Kellen was a sophomore in Burns. Yeah, and I believe my senior year they beat us, and Kellen was the one that did some quarterback sneak or something towards the end of the game.
Similar story for me. AJ Feely was the quarterback at Ontario, and I played against him.
Oh yeah,
and he they torched us. We were 4A at the time, which was the highest, and they were in the same league as Baker.
Yeah,
and we got stomped by a 3A school.
So I guess I have claim to fame that I played against Kellen Clemens.
That works.
Awesome. He's a great.
But I'm a big Ohio State guy, and as are my kids, and so yeah. It's fun to watch.
And are you going to a big game?
I am actually. So I try to go back every now and then, and I bring one kid with me, and
because you have 4,
I have 4, and just my oldest daughter was born at Ohio State Medical Center, and so because Ohio State just means so much to us, and the fact that I got my master's there. We want a chance to take them back so they can see, where we lived. And so I've gone back twice. The first time was a game against Oregon State. I always pick the Labor Day weekend game because typically it's a cupcake game. And plus it's a 3-day weekend, so it's a little easier to get back there. And
this one isn't.
Yeah. And then the following year was they played Florida Atlantic. And then my son kept saying, "Hey, is it my turn to go?" And he wasn't quite old enough. And Ohio State was actually supposed to play at Oregon in 2020.
Yeah.
So I was hoping to maybe go to that game, but then it got canceled because of COVID. And I wasn't ready to go back last year because I felt like there was still too much uncertainty. And so, anyways, my son's like, "Well, are we going to go this year?" And I said, "I think so, buddy." But then when I actually looked and found out it was Notre Dame, I was like, "Oh shoot, I don't think we're going to go because those tickets aren't going to be cheap, and we're not going to pay that kind of money for those tickets." But I reached out to a former classmate of mine, letting her know that if she knows of anybody, because she still lives in Columbus, if you know anybody who might be selling their tickets, I might be interested. And she actually offered to sell hers to her and her husband's to me at face value.
Nice.
And so we're going. So
that's awesome.
So my son and I, college game day is going to be there, and so my son and I we're planning to get up really early, and we're going to try and make a sign and see if we can't get LeGrand on national television. So
that'd be awesome. Hey, before I forget, one of the things that you forgot about retention. We live in one of the most beautiful places.
It is. It sells itself.
Yeah, it's like it's gorgeous here. We got Wallowa Lake right there.
Yep.
And when we have the blue, it's a beautiful place.
I tell the recruiters that I think a lot of these providers just don't know. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know that the Eastern Oregon and LeGrand exists. And I think and a lot of folks, when they come and interview, they are amazed by the beauty, and then they're also amazed by. Almost every comment I get is, "Oh, you guys as a hospital are bigger than I thought you were."
Yeah.
Because again, when you think rural, you think single story, very limited services, and yet we're very complex.
Yeah.
So
one of the comments I get on my shows, because I always ask the athletes, the EOU athletes, what's your favorite thing about Eastern Oregon? It's always the same answer, and it's the people.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Great people.
It's almost 99%.
Yeah.
Well, and you presented at Rotary the other day.
Yeah.
And Wally is Tracy Epperson's. She's the new doc that's coming on, and so they're brand new. And Wally was it, and he gave us this wonderful testimonial about LeGrand and the hospital and the Grand Ronde Valley and so on and so forth. And it's, shifting back to this build out in the hospital, if you've been in the area, you don't really understand what we have. I mean, unless you talk to someone who is also in a critical access hospital, they don't understand that, we're really unique to have some of those things. I'm sorry. So a brain doctor and a skin doctor and a cardiologist, they all
heart doctor.
They all have the right terms. But still, I mean, for an area that and even 20 years ago, our own people were having to go out of town for those services. So those are amazing things.
Well, and you bring up a good point. So, Dr. Epperson is a new psychiatrist.
Right.
Again, very tough specialty to recruit. Every community across this country is trying to figure out ways to improve access to mental and behavioral health services. And so we just feel so fortunate that she's come and joined our team here. And, but I think, people don't realize, and maybe your audience might not realize, but there's quite of a production to get a provider here. I mean, not only do I typically interview them, then they talk to a fellow doctor in their specialty here. And then we bring them out for an on-site visit, and then we're getting real estate agents involved. They're doing a community tour. They typically have a dinner. We're having to lodge them somewhere so they get a chance to look and feel. And almost all the time, folks are, man, the community is so friendly. It's nice. It's clean. They love the wide open spaces, the hiking trails. So you're right. There's so much to offer here, and our best resource is just our people here.
Yeah.
And
agreed.
And so we just got to get more folks coming and interviewing because I think it sells itself.
Yeah. And I'm the president of LeGrand Main Street downtown, and I'm kind of on the other side of like, oh man, we got this problem, and we need to do better here, and we do better here. And so it's so wonderful to have someone with fresh eyes going like, you guys are really cool, and because that's really hard to see when you're in the muck trying to make it better.
We are our own worst critics.
Yeah.
And, but again, I think we want what's best for our families and for our children and for the community. And I think, the fact that Jim Mattis, my predecessor, was here for 35 years, the typical tenure of a hospital CEO is about 3 years.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of turnover. And so the fact that, he was here for 35 years, and we have numerous employees who have 30 and 40 years of work at GRH, that loyalty and that commitment to the community is just unheard of these days. And again, I think it's what makes Grand Ronde Hospital special, and is that we're hiring folks that really want to see our hospital and see this community thrive and be successful. Because as I mentioned early on, we're independent, and if we don't do it, who will?
Right. And we could spend a half an hour just talking about the significance of the independence.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of these things that have taken me a while to finally get my head around and understand the difference and why that matters. But the bottom line is that some of those specialties that I mentioned before, those are because we're independent.
Oh yeah.
If we were in another hospital on either side of us, controlled by larger hospitals in bigger cities, those decisions to not have those specialties, they're made because, we're not going to put that specialty in that hospital because there's not enough population base to pay for itself. Yeah. And since we're independent, we have the ability to make some of those decisions that this is what the community needs. Yeah.
And, one of our core values at Grand Ronde Hospital is creativity. And I think, that really in a nutshell is what you're speaking to, is that we have to find ways to meet the needs of the community. And if there's a specialty that we don't have, maybe maybe that specialty needs a population base of 60,000 patients. Well, okay, well, can we find one that maybe will come here twice a month? And so that way the patients don't have to travel. We bring that doctor or that provider here. And so, I think we've done a great job over the past, several years and even decades of, again, really having an eye towards what is the need of the community and trying to be very creative and strategic, and how can we address that in an efficient and effective manner.
Okay, good. So how can people help? And do you need their help?
Absolutely. Really, I think anytime you take on a project of this significance in terms of dollars, anything that the community can do to help donate and help support our foundation and the funds that we want to raise as part of this capital campaign, allow us to then not use some of our own money for this project, but allows us to then focus on, again, some of those other strategic needs, whether it's physician recruitment, whether it's new service lines. Again, as I mentioned, we have other facility needs within the organization. And so, certainly we feel comfortable with the dollar amount of the project. Yes, we've saved up some money to pay for it. We've also have borrowed some money, but anything that the community can do to help, obviously then alleviates some of that burden, maybe allows us to pay off some of that debt sooner. And again, gives us the flexibility and autonomy to be quick and reactive and more nimble in terms of the community. So really, the foundation has got several events. There's a golf scramble that's coming up on September 10th that I believe there's still some slots available for folks to participate in that. And then really, again, I would say go to the website. And I think you guys are going to put that up on the screen.
It's there.
And donate. No amount is too little. We've had some wonderful donations that have come in already, some sizable donations from folks who wish to remain anonymous in the community. And I can't, there's a lot that I'm really proud of in terms of the hospital and the work that we're doing. But it's pretty humbling when folks are in the community are willing to give us some of their resources and some of their funds and their money back to the hospital because they believe in us. Mm-hmm. They support us, and they recognize what as an organization what we've been through over the last 2.5 years. I mean, it's been tough.
Yeah.
And we've had to we've fought, we've clawed, we've scrapped, and we've went through a variety of mandates and obviously lots of uncertainty. And, we're still reeling from those effects. It's been tough on every healthcare worker. And so I think these funds that come in really help rejuvenate us as an organization, as a staff, that people do appreciate the work they're doing. And they don't take the hospital for granted because, we are a business, and I know that maybe folks don't like to hear that as a hospital, but if we don't manage our expenses well, we could go bankrupt or close like other hospitals have in this country. And so it really takes a community. They say it takes a village to raise a kid, and I think it takes a community to support a hospital.
Right. So and not only in them giving, but actually being a patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we want to earn that business.
Right.
And I think, and again, we've done a great job. We enjoy great patient satisfaction scores, but absolutely at that buy local mentality, doesn't matter whether it's small business or whether it's the hospital. We want to earn that business, and keeping that business then helps support Union County in general.
And so this will be done in about 14 months from now?
Barring any surprises with construction, I believe we'll take occupancy of the new building around May or June of 2024.
Okay.
So we're a little less than 2 years from now.
Okay. And when it's done, it's going to be beautiful.
Oh yeah, absolutely stunning. And I really encourage folks, if you want to see a rendering, you can go to our, I believe it's on our Facebook page, or you can go to grh.org, and there's actually a banner on the top of our webpage that you can click on a link that goes to the facilities expansion page, and you're going to be able to see the end rendering of what it's going to look like. Well, and then there's a big billboard that shows you what it's going to look like too. And we're going to post progress photos on Facebook and so forth. So yeah, it's going to be a beautiful project. And we're actually, one of the things I'm really excited about too is, we're going to have some pretty big cranes and equipment there. And we've already been in talks with the school district and especially Central Elementary about, this is going to be a pretty cool opportunity for some of these kids to see some pretty heavy equipment up and close. And, so again, we're not looking at it just from a hospital-centric position. Can this be an education opportunity? Yeah. Can it inspire some of these young kids to go in some of the trades and construction where they get to play with some pretty cool equipment and move some significant amounts of dirt and have some fun.
So, and I think I heard that so the big chunks are going to be prefabbed. I would imagine they're probably concrete chunks, and then they'll be anyhow. The actual erection will go pretty quickly. Right?
Yeah. So the actual steel infrastructure for the building is actually going to be prefabbed.
Okay. Yeah.
And then that's going to be brought in, and I kind of link it liken it to kind of a Lincoln Logs Connect Text type thing that. Yeah. So what would normally take maybe a month to 2 months to assemble. They could probably do this in about a week and a half to 2 weeks because everything's prefabbed. And so those are some of the things, again, the beauty of the pandemic where we kind of slowed down to make sure that we had the right scope, the right number of ORs, what can we afford, what's the right, this is one of those where we could save some time on the construction by doing this new innovation with having these prefabs. So yeah, there's all kinds of cool things that are coming out in this project, and it's gonna be fun to watch.
Cool. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for being here. And I took more of your time than I said we would, but there's a lot to cover here.
There is,
and it's really significant. I appreciate you being a local kid, you understanding. I'm involved in a executive search committee right now, and there's just such an appreciation when you have applicants and you have people and they just love Eastern Oregon. They don't want to change it. I mean, they don't want to, not that we're not for change, but that they love the people that we are. And I really appreciate the fit that you are.
Oh, thank you.
So
it's been great to be home. And just so proud of Grand Island Hospital and the staff and what we've been through, and really excited about the future.
Great. All righty. Thank you. We'll be right back. right, welcome back. Thank you guys for being here. So, why don't you get us out of here, man?
Yep. On this day, 1609. So today's what? The 25th of August?
Yeah, let me get up there.
25th of August, 1609. Galileo demonstrated his first telescope to Venetian lawmakers. 1609 on this day. 1768 on this day, Captain James Cook departed from Plymouth, England on his first voyage on board the Endeavour, bound for the Pacific Ocean. 1768. 1932 on this day, Amelia Earhart completes the transcontinental flight.
Wow.
1932. So 90 years ago on this day. 1958 on this day, Momofuku Ando markets the first package of pre-cooked instant noodles. Top ramen.
Right, yeah.
1958.
Wow.
2019 on this day, NASA investigated the first crime in space ever. Astronaut Anne McClain illegally accessed a bank account from space.
Really?
Yeah.
What year?
2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they have a rule against like not getting on the bank or what.
I don't know.
I have no idea. But the number one song on this day in 1992, 30 years ago, "End of the Road" by Boyz II Men. And then the quote for the day, there it is. Inspiration is a guest that does not willingly visit the lazy. Inspiration is a guest that does not willingly visit the lazy. That's it. On a Thursday, first Friday.
All right. Thank you, Eastern Oregon.
See you Tuesday.
Yep.